We're a nonpartisan nonprofit. So we are public servants as well. We work adjacent to the federal government. We are not the federal government, but we work for a nonprofit. As Ann shared, our organization believes that a stronger government means a stronger democracy. And when we say government, we typically mean civil service, so the executive branch of government. Is anybody here a Parks and Rec fan? Okay, a couple hands. I'm like, the more the years go on, the less and less hands go up. But if you know who Leslie Knope is, I joke that our organization is about 125 Leslie Knopes. Like, we really believe in one government to work, and we know that it can if it has the right resources and the public understands the reach and tools that government provides. So I'd love to hear from you all. I know it's bright and early, but what is your call to serve? So our team is called the Call to Serve team. We try to go to colleges and universities, meet with rooms like the one we're in today to get bright young people thinking about government, but what do you care about? And you can just raise your hand. Yes.
Improving health outcomes for vulnerable populations.
Love that. Improving health outcomes. That's great. I saw another hand up here. Yes.
Just generally like environmental sustainability, and I do a lot with like water quality right now. So.
Absolutely. Lots of places you could do that in government. Absolutely with the health outcomes as well. What else? What just gets you excited? Yes.
Making sure that like underserved populations, especially like rural populations, have access to law and to like public service.
It's amazing. I grew up in Appalachia, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
We should chat.
We can chat. I'll take one more. Yes.
Food policy as it relates to like helping with local economic development.
That's incredible. My mom actually does school garden programs through her extension service, so that speaks to me as well. Yeah, I'll talk to all of you. This is a great room, I can tell. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing more about what your call to service. But think about that as you're going through this morning with us, but also through your program. And I just want to thank PBK. This is an amazing program. We've been coming for years. We love it. We look forward to it, but really relish in this experience. They have put on a phenomenal program for you. We absolutely love working with Delaney. I think she just walked out of the room. And they're fabulous. So please think about what your call to serve is and allow that to frame your weekend. All right, so we'll keep going through the slides. So we're going to talk a little bit about federal hiring. So again, our organization is really focused on the federal workforce and getting bright young people into the federal workforce. We're also going to talk a little bit about state and local and some other pathways into government as well. But right now we're going to talk about federal. Okay, so I know that no one needs this, but a quick civics lesson just as we're all waking up this morning. So these are the three branches of government. If we keep clicking through the slides, you'll recall that we are focused on that executive branch. So that looks like 2.3 million federal employees who are apolitical. Friendly reminder that the civil service are not politicians. They are not people that are elected. Of course, there are some political appointees with every presidential administration, but by and large, we as a partnership and what we're going to talk about today are focused on the apolitical civil service. 15 executive departments, over 400 agencies and subcomponents. What federal agencies come to mind when we think about the federal government? Yes.
Social Security.
Yes. Social Security Administration, the SSA. What else? Yes.
National Institutes of Health.
Yeah, NIH just down the road from us. Yes.
USAID.
Yes, my best friend worked in Mozambique with USAID. Yes, absolutely. What else? I saw a hand up here. Or maybe I didn't. Yes.
EPA.
EPA?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Does anybody ever enjoy time in National Park? Yeah, that's at the Department of Interior. That's one of my favorites. USDA. I know we had some food policy interest and some rural policy interest. Absolutely. So here are some other examples: DoD, DHS, CIA. But again, 15 cabinet agencies and then hundreds of other independent agencies like the EPA is an independent agency. Something that we always like to share, a lot of people believe that the federal workforce is right here in Washington, D.C., and of course it is, and it drives our economy here, but over 80% of the federal workforce is outside of the capital region. So there are federal employees not only in every single state in U.S. territory, but nearly every country throughout the world. So it's really important to remember that federal employees are in your communities and in your home states. And while I would love for you all to come to DC and work here, if that's what you so desire, you don't have to. A really quick story that I always tell is we go to schools all over the country to have conversations like we're having today, and we were in Oklahoma tabling at a career fair. I was speaking to a young man, and it was a nice conversation, and he said, "Hey, is the VA federal government?" I said, "It sure is." He said, "Oh, my mom's a social worker. She's worked there for like my whole life. I didn't realize she was a civil servant. So sometimes we don't even realize the full reach of federal government in our communities, even in your own family. They work with these agencies and keep the wheels of society running, sometimes in the background. So just think about that. And you can see these numbers. They're as recent as September 2024. Hopefully you can see your home state. We're going to share these slides, and I know it's recorded after as well. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pass things to my fabulous colleague, Stephanie Sonkin. She's going to get a little more technical. I provided an overview, but we have some tools and resources that are on your reusable silverware and stickers, gogovernment.org, for how to actually navigate the federal hiring system.
All right, thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie, as Katie mentioned. So before we get into talking about USA Jobs and federal hiring and navigating that hiring process, we did want to highlight some resources for you on the partnership side. So the first is gogovernment.org. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. It's great. This is where our team compiles all of our articles, resources, guides on federal hiring and federal opportunities. So this is a screenshot of our homepage. So you'll see a couple of different resources highlighted there, but that's not the full extent of it. So you'll see some information about the pay and federal schedule, if you've heard of the GS scale before, how to navigate background checks and security clearances, what employee benefits you get as a federal employee. But we do want to highlight two very, very important resources that are not featured on that homepage. So you navigate over to career guides. So a big question that we get, especially from students, is, okay, so I want to work in federal government, but what can I even do? So this is a great way to explore your options. So you'll see these buttons on that screenshot, and it's all the different types of career fields that you could explore. So I know that we have a lot of liberal arts and sciences folks, so we have that social sciences button there for you, and you can check it out. Again, we have engineering, business and finance, administration and program management. So as you click through those career guides, you'll get a snapshot as to what job titles there are, where you could potentially work, sample job descriptions, and the newest feature that we added at the end of last year is actually a live ticker pulling in live information from USA Jobs. So you'll see some examples of live job postings there. So really highly recommend that you check it out. And then our main resource that we want to highlight for you is the Federal Internship Finder, actually created by our colleague Ann Straith right over here at the end of 2023. So while this is not a live jobs board, it is a thorough database of all federal internships, fellowships, opportunities that you can explore, and it's a great planning tool. Our team does as much as we can to keep it updated given the current political climate, so we want to make sure that anything that you see on that finder is available for you. While we don't have enough time to demo it today, we do have a number of filters on that finder that I can just describe to you right now. So you can search by the career guide fields that you saw previously on the previous slide, but you can also search for part-time, full-time, paid, unpaid, agency, and location, including remote opportunities. So it's a great way to just filter through. Again, not all federal opportunities are located in Washington, D.C., so really take a chance to go through that finder, see what might be of interest, and then you can go over to USA Jobs and see what's still there. All right, so on to USA Jobs. That's why we're here today. Can I have a show of hands? Who has been on USA Jobs before? Keep your hand up if you have an account with USA Jobs. And then raise your hand if you are thoroughly confused by USA Jobs. Yep. All right, so we're gonna try and distill that a little bit. So USA Jobs is the primary place where you can find jobs and internships in federal government. It's not the only place, but we are gonna talk about USA Jobs today because about 95–97% of those opportunities will be located there. One other highlighted area of USA Jobs that I want to note is the Federal Internship Portal. So this is a subsidiary website of USA Jobs. So if you go to intern.usajobs.gov, they automatically apply the students and recent graduates filter to those opportunities. So you can just filter out any full-time roles if you're only looking for internships. So that's a very easy way to locate any live internships there. So as we continue, so a little bit more about the filters on USA Jobs. So there is one filter for students and one filter for recent graduates. Both of them are colored yellow, so you'll see that yellow dot there with the graduation cap. That's the one that you should be looking for. And then recent graduates. Who here is a senior, or a rising senior rather? Perfect. All right, So, lucky for you, the federal government defines recent graduates as being up to 2 years out from your graduation date. So let's say you are graduating in May 2026. You can use that recent graduate status up until May 2028. And if you are a veteran, it's 6 years, so 2032. So really take advantage of that. You can still use those students and recent graduates filters to your advantage. So for students, you are still going to be a current student in the coming year. So we do want to note the word trainee. The government is not always great at naming its jobs and internships. So if you see the word trainee, that actually is government speak for intern. So sometimes it'll say, you know, they want a Department of Interior intern, but they might also say trainee, so don't get confused there. Now, if you are searching by GS scale, for any undergrads, which I believe all of you are, you should be filtering for GS 4 through 5. That's just based on the level of experience you have, the level of pay. And then as you get into graduate school, if you do go to graduate school or law school, you can search for GS 7 through 9. The next point that we have here is conversion eligible versus not to exceed rules. So as you look through those job announcements for jobs and internships, if you see the term not to exceed 12 months, that means once you hit that 12-month mark in your internship, you cannot work longer than that. But if you see the term conversion eligible after a certain amount of time, that means if there is a billet left over for you, if there is, you know, good performance and the ability to convert you into a full-time role, they will be able to do that for you. So definitely pay attention to that. And then if you want to read a little bit more about it, if you scan that QR code there, it'll take you to our article on the government. And I'll pause there if anyone wanted to take that QR code. I see someone pulling out their phone. Awesome. All right, I think we can move over to the next slide. So another feature of our career guides that you can use on USA Jobs is our job series codes. So if you're not familiar with them, every job and internship that's posted on USA Jobs gets what's called a job series code, a series of numbers that relate to a job family or a job function. So we have just a couple of examples here. If you see 0101 social science, if you take that number and plug it into the job search in USA Jobs in that search bar, it'll give you every job or internship that is coded that way. So that's a great way to streamline your job search, make sure that you're focusing on the right types of roles that you're looking for. All right, reviewing job announcements. This might be the toughest part of it because sometimes job announcements in the federal government can be highly detailed or might use language that you might not be super duper familiar with. So these are our easy steps to just reviewing job announcements. So you'll start with a summary. You'll see in that screenshot up here, that's where the bulk of the information will be. So it'll just give you more information about what that job is, maybe what office it's in, and the general functions of it, program management, budget management, what have you. This job is open too. So in that second smaller screenshot, we talked about students and recent graduates filter. There's also open to the public filter. You'll always want to double check that to make sure your background applies to who that job or internship is open to. Overview, duties, and requirements. This is where additional information is brought on, and we're going to talk about using keywords later in your federal resume. So that is where you should really be paying attention to those bullet points, those job functions, anything that they consider critical to that role. How you will be evaluated. So this will differ depending on the job or internship you are applying to. Sometimes it's having a certain amount of experience, or sometimes it's having supervisory experience. Every job and internship posting is different, so always, always double check that section to make sure that you meet those requirements and understand how you are being evaluated. Required documents, most often this is going to be your federal resume and maybe some transcripts. Not so often they will ask for a personal statement, but that's not super common in federal hiring, so just be aware of that and double check which documents are required. And then how to apply. So you'll see that blue apply button on that screenshot. So most often you will be using USA Jobs to submit your application, but sometimes certain agencies like you to email your application package. So again, just double check, every agency is different. And before we go to the next slide, I did want to highlight, so if you see that red arrow on that top screenshot pointing to the star save button, keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to talk about it in a minute. All right, so actually this is a snapshot of Katie's old USA Jobs account. I don't know if you're still in it, Katie, but this is what happens when you will log into your USA Jobs account. So for anyone who has it, this is what it looks like. Anyone who's not familiar, these are the 3 tabs that you should focus on. So under the number 2, applications, this is where all of your applications are going to be logged and tracked. So any applications that are in progress, submitted, there is a progress tracker on it. So it'll say if the application is under review, if it's being transferred over to the hiring manager. So you'll be able to see that in live time. Under the number 1, saved jobs, that is where that star I just mentioned comes from. So you can just save jobs and have it be logged in your account. And then under that number 4, saved searches. So if you find yourself doing the same search in USA Jobs over and over and over again, you can actually save those searches to save time. So instead of going onto the USA Jobs homepage, plugging in the same filters over and over again, instead you can save that search and then just go straight to your account and then just click on that search and it'll automatically apply those filters for you. So it's a great way to just streamline your search. All right, federal resumes. So federal resumes, is anyone familiar with writing a federal resume? All right, couple of hands. All right, so federal resumes are long. So these are not quite the same as private sector resumes. Typically, how long should a private sector resume be? 1 page, 2 pages, maybe max. So federal resumes are a little bit different in that they encompass a lot more of your experience. So they want to see a lot of detail, a lot of background into what you were doing at each job and internship that you've been with. So 2 to 5 pages for someone who's entry level is very, very common. The team and I, we went to a campus visit last fall where we had the civil lawyer, I believe she was, with HUD. And she had been with the government for about 15 years. Does anyone want to take a guess as to how long her federal resume was? A 15-year tenure in government. You can shout it out.
14 pages.
More than 14 pages. Anyone?
Pages.
25 pages. So again, a lot of detail is required. So we do recommend that you use the USA Jobs Resume Builder. This is going to be the easiest way to formulate your resume because it has all of the fields required that federal hiring managers and HR folks are looking for. So this is a great way to be familiar with all of the elements that need to go into a federal resume. So then on the next slide, we can talk about these components a little bit more. So when you are completing that resume builder, or even if you just want to build it on Microsoft Word, that's totally fine. You'll want to have your own information there, so name, email, contact information, anything that you want to put there, your LinkedIn. Education, so all of your school information, your GPA, any relevant courses that might apply to the job or internship that you are looking for. And then work experience. So work experience is a little bit of a misnomer because you can actually put volunteer experience there as well. I'm assuming a lot of you are involved in clubs on campus or have done volunteer work elsewhere. So don't let work experience deter you from putting this on your federal resume because they want to see all of your experience. Anything that could qualify you for a job or internship, definitely put that in there. So as you write through those bullet points, they want to see how many hours per week you are working or volunteering. And this is going to be really important to put an accurate number because if for an internship, let's say they want you to have 1 full year of experience, they're going to take those hours per week worked and then calculate whether or not you meet that requirement. So be as accurate as possible and include everything. They will also ask you for salary, which is optional. You don't necessarily have to put that in there, and especially if it was volunteer, you would just put 0. Supervisor information, so if you want to put your supervisor's information there for your previous experience, you can. There will be 3 buttons underneath it. It'll say yes to contact, no to contact, or contact me first. So if you're concerned at all, you can just choose the option that works best for you. And then some additional optional information that might make sense for you. So job-related training such as certifications. So if you are certified in some kind of data language, or I'm gonna age myself, like JavaScript, you would just put that in that section and make sure that it is cataloged accurately. Language skills. Who here has additional language skills apart from English? Awesome. So you would definitely want to put that in there. Depending on the role that you're applying for, you might actually be able to get a bonus when you sign on for that role. So you are going to be asked to rate your reading, speaking, and writing. So just make sure that you are grading yourself accurately, especially if a language test comes along later. Affiliation, so if you're a member of an association of any kind, definitely put that in there. If you are a Phi Beta Kappa member, definitely put that in there. Professional publications, so if you do research on campus, you have your name on some academic journals, also put that in. And then additional references, so other folks apart from supervisors that you want to act as your references. You can add that there as well. I believe there's space for at least 3, there might be more. All right, so some additional federal resume tips. Tailor the federal resume to the job announcement. So we talked about reading those duties and responsibilities on that job announcement. So you want to take those key words and make sure that you work them into your federal resume. This might take a little bit of extra time as you tailor each federal resume to each job or internship application, but I promise you it's worth it. So if you see that they want someone who wears a gray sweater, don't put that you are wearing a charcoal cardigan. Really repeat the language, make sure that you're using it. Numbers impress hiring managers. So it's not necessarily enough to say that you wrote press releases for your organization. They want to see the frequency and the impact and the outcomes. So it's probably a little bit better to say, I wrote daily press releases for a 10-week internship resulting in a certain amount of hits on our social media. They really want to see, okay, so you did that, but then what was the impact as well? Market your skills and achievements. Not a time to be humble, put everything in there. If you won any prizes, awards, you got really good feedback from your manager that you want to plug in there, definitely add that. Spelling and grammar matter, as with anything academic or professional. Make sure you're proofreading 3, 4, 5 times. Make sure it reads clean. Be concise and clear. So while you are putting in a lot of detail, make sure that the language that you're using in each bullet point is concise enough that it's intelligible and it makes sense to both a hiring manager and a hiring manager and a human resources manager as well. And use common language. So if you are applying for a highly technical role in computer science or public health and you're using very, very technical jargon, try to do a second or third read of that to make sure that someone off the street would be able to understand what you're trying to say, especially in organizations that have their own lingo. Really important because a human capital manager at the VA might not know exactly what you're saying. So just be mindful of the language that you're using. And then finally, the biggest tip that we have is the resume is your application. I like to give the advice that federal resumes are kind of like a resume and a cover letter combined. As I mentioned earlier, most federal job and internship applications, they don't require a cover letter or a personal statement, so this is really your opportunity to showcase everything in your experience. All right, and then another question that we get is federal hiring timeline. So what happens after I hit submit? So you'll apply in USA Jobs, you'll hit that submit button, and then your application goes under review. So human resources will come first, and they will score your application just based on what they are looking for. And then if they score you highly, they will pass that application off to a federal hiring manager. So from that federal hiring manager, if they're interested in bringing you in for an interview, that's when you'll be brought in. So you'll interview, and if they want to bring you on for that job or internship, then you'll get what's called a tentative job offer. So you have that tentative job offer in hand, and that is pending a background check and security clearance investigation. So that is probably the lengthiest amount of time that you might be waiting, depending on the on the type of role, whether or not it's a national security type of role. So pending background check and security clearance, then if you're all clear, then you'll get your final job offer, you'll accept, and then you'll start. So the latest data that we have is that from application release to your actual start date, it takes about 101 days. That is just over 3 months, but as we all know, it could take a little bit longer. So if you're looking at federal as you approach graduation, I would actually recommend that you start applying about 6 months in advance to any job that you might be interested in. And it's okay that you haven't graduated yet, as long as you're clear about your graduation date on your application and it still meets the requirements, you're good to go. And if anyone is interested in national security roles, we actually recommend starting a year in advance with the same advice.